All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining. Today, what I want to talk to you about is how to get into your first apartment deal without guessing or going broke. A lot of you probably have the same journey I've had, which is you've looked at maybe doing single family, using the Burr method, wholesaling, a lot of other real estate ideas, methods, and you always looked at apartments as a really awesome way to make more money. Like, hey, if I can get more deals at one time, I would love to do that, but I just can't. You've got this belief that you can't do that. So, what I want to share with you today is actually how you can do that. And it's much more attainable than you're probably thinking. So, with that, if you never met me before, my name is Stephen Lee Thomas. I'm a multifamily investor. I've been doing this. This is my 8th year. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a podcast host, and I'm a business coach. And I help people get into their first apartment deal or maybe get into their next and start scaling their apartment business. So, my partners and I, like I said, we've been doing this for quite a while. And here's our portfolio as principals, general partners. And you can see that over time, we've been able to acquire thousands of units across the United States and great markets and go full cycle on a lot of those. So we've done a lot of these deals together. But why is it that most people never do their first apartment deal? I think the first one is probably analysis paralysis, right? You're just really overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. And you've been studying YouTube videos for who knows how long, trying to figure this out. And you're just stuck. You know, it's a great idea, but you don't really know where to get started. Then you probably have this fear of losing money. You're thinking, if it costs me, $100,000 or whatever it is to get into a single family home, like it's probably going to cost me a whole lot of money to get into an apartment deal. And if I do it wrong, I can't afford to lose that much money. And then relying too much on guesswork and gurus. So what you don't want to do is have this guesswork that's in front of you, or you've got these internet gurus that drop this information and you just feel uncomfortable. Like, how do you get through this? So today, what we're going to focus on is the 5 steps to closing your first deal, how to avoid these most costly mistakes, and what to focus on, and really what to ignore. And I'll share some examples with you. I want to share with you some myths about apartment investing. And the fact is, a lot of people think you need millions of dollars to get into your first apartment. And the reality of it is, you don't. You really don't need millions of dollars. There's some secrets in here I'm going to share with you, but you don't need crazy amounts of money to get into your first apartment deal. You also don't need a real estate license. A lot of people think that. And I talked to somebody recently who said, "Oh, I'm gonna, get into apartment investing, and I've been studying for weeks to get my real estate license." And what they should have done is been learning how to underwrite and analyze deals and raise capital and find deals. So you absolutely do not need a real estate license to do this. And I can also tell you, you don't need to quit your job. When I started this, I was starting my family, had recently bought a house, was busy climbing the corporate ladder, very busy in my job. And I was able to get into apartment investing while I was doing those things. And so it's much more attainable than you think. So, what are the first 5 steps to get into your deal? We're going to go through those one by one on our call today. Okay. All right. Number one here is you need to define your role. Really, really, really important. Define your role. When you define your role, you define your value. And then what happens is you're able to build a team to work with. The next thing you need to do is learn how to analyze deals. Then you got to get in the right rooms. You've got to get around other people who are doing the same thing. It's the only way you're going to be able to do this. And then you need to learn how to raise capital or join a team that can help you raise capital. So let's break down each of those in a little bit more detail, okay? All right. So the first one here is defining your role. This is something that when I first started in the apartment investing space, I did not really understand this. And I had this idea that I should just do everything on my own. And then at one point, a coach told me you need to find your role. And that's, when it goes into building the right team, we'll talk about that in the next slide. But you need to figure out, are you the property analyzer? Are you the capital raiser? Are you the operator? Are you the connector? Are you the person that maybe is helping with the sourcing of these things? So it's really understanding your role. And when you understand that you're bringing a team together and you understand your role, then you begin to add a lot of value. And let me give you an example, right? So bullet two here is clarity equals focus and confidence. And that's how you track the right partner. So if you clearly know your role, imagine going to a networking event or even if it's online and you're connecting with other people and they say, hey, like, what do you do in apartments? And if you say, oh, I do a little bit of everything, you don't really clearly articulate the value. Or I hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm open to anything. Like, I'll roll up my sleeves and do anything. Like, I'll do any of it. That tells me you're going to take a lot of work. But if you can clearly articulate, I am an underwriter. I have relationship with the brokers and I get deal flow. I'm really good at raising capital. I love investor relations, or my strength here is really in the asset management. When you can do that, you have that clarity, you have that focus, and you have that confidence. So really, what is your role? Define your role, and that's going to help you a lot. Step number two here, that is building the right team. So once you know your role and you understand the roles that are out there, then you know the gaps that you have. Then you know the people you need to surround yourself with to move forward. So my next suggestion is build the right team. You don't want to do this alone. And the reality of it is you shouldn't. So there's four core roles that I like to talk about on these deals. Okay. So number one is the deal finder. Are you out there building relationships with brokers? Are you boots on the ground? Are you finding deals? The next one is going to be the capital raiser, or someone who handles investor relations. And there's some people who they just really like networking with people, or they built a nice network over time and they have the ability to raise more capital, and they don't want to do underwriting. They don't want to find deals. They want to do investor relations. Then you have someone who's going to be an asset manager. That's the person who's going to be working closely with the property management company, and they're going to be implementing the business plan at the property. And then the fourth one is the underwriter. And the underwriter is the person who's putting together the business plan. And when you combine these four core roles, then you've got a team, then you've got synergies. And that's how you begin to leverage the experiences building these partnerships. And I see a lot of people make this huge mistake, is they're trying to learn everything before they move forward. But if you can pick the one or two things that you're really good at and partner with someone who can complement your skill and bring the rest of that to the table, and maybe there's three of you that do that, then you can move forward faster. So clearly define your role, build the right team, build partnerships, you can move faster. Okay. Do those things. Next, step number three, learn how to analyze deals. Learn what pencils, or what works and what doesn't. So one of the strategies I love to teach here when it comes to underwriting is the four phases of underwriting. And I'm going to give that to you at a high level. But why is that important? Because if you don't know what you're doing when it comes to underwriting, you're going to spin your wheels, spin, 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 spin. And a lot of deals aren't going to pencil. They're not actually going to work out. So the four phases that I teach walk you through looking at a deal in a quick analysis fashion, a back of the napkin fashion. And if you can get close enough, then you move to the next phase and the next phase and the next phase. And phase four is when you're submitting the offer and doing the property tour. Because if you can learn to recognize good deals early on, you can shove all the rest of them to the side. So how can you analyze deals faster, and why do you want to do that? It was because it's going to make you more efficient. It's going to add value to you as an underwriter. The other thing is shiny object syndrome, and that's focusing on deals that are not in your buying criteria. So create what's called a buy box and stay in that buy box. Brokers are going to send you things, or you're going to find things on the internet that fall outside of that, and you're going to be chasing a lot of things. I spoke to somebody one time and they said, I'm looking at land, I'm looking at wholesale, I'm looking at retail, I'm looking at apartments. And I said, do you feel like you're good at any of those? And they said, no. And I, well, that's why you're chasing after everything. Don't do that. Focus on your buy box. And then the last one I said is just don't analyze everything. Don't do it. Learn what will pencil and learn what won't. I had a great conversation yesterday with one of my clients. We were looking at a couple different deals, and we got to look at them side by side. And it was very clear to see this one's going to be much more challenging than this other deal over here. So Learn to analyze deals. And I think everybody should have some level of experience with analyzing deals. Because imagine this, even if you're raising capital, you need to be able to look at a deal and say, yes, I agree with underwriting or I don't. Because if you don't know enough about the deal, then you're asking people to put money into a deal that you might not have much confidence with. The next thing you need to do here is focus on getting in the right rooms. Okay. This is really, really, really important. And you got to get out of your comfort zone. Okay. You need to start networking with other people. You need to be in a community of other people who are doing this. If you're not, you're trying to do it alone. We already talked about that earlier. Don't do this alone. You need to be around other people. And that might mean, like I said, getting out of your comfort zone. You're gonna show up someplace with a bunch of, people that are maybe further ahead of you, but at some point you're gonna be further ahead of other people and you need to reach out and you get to help them. Okay. So you want to be in a place where you can network with brokers, operators, lenders, and other people doing what you're doing. You want to join specific communities, okay? Whether that's free or paid, you want to be in a community of people who are doing the same thing so that you can learn together faster. And the other thing I'm going to say is show up. If you're not showing up, you're not putting one foot in front of the other. You have to show up. The only way for you to get where you want to be is to change the person that you are today. That's the only way it's going to happen. You cannot continue to do what you're doing today and expect to be somebody different. Okay. So show up consistently, whether it's online or in person, and start, being the change that you want to see. Then the next one we have here is the funding part. Okay. Now I've done another training on this. Now, funding, there's a lot of things to this, but bring the bank. They bring a ton of money. Bring in private equity if you can. Bring in, do seller financing if you can, but you also can close a lot of that gap by raising capital or join a deal where somebody is raising a lot of capital. Okay. Now, capital raising is something that most people just are not interested in. But here's what I have to tell you. This is true. It's like anything else, it's a skill. Okay. It's not a limitation. If you're not good at capital raising, that just means you don't know how to do it yet. Okay. So you need to learn the basics of capital raising. And if you can learn to raise enough capital, you become a very valuable player in the apartment investing space. People are always looking for capital. It's probably the biggest limiting factor. So if you want to really lean in and learn how to raise capital, that is going to really change things for you in the apartment investing world. Okay. Position yourself with credibility. Okay. People invest with someone who they know, they like, and they trust. And then the other thing here, and this goes back to building partnerships, join a deal as a co-GP or a key partner. This could be a key principal, okay? So you don't have to do this alone. If you can raise some capital, you are earning your seat at the table, okay? So that's step number 5. And then I also want to talk to you about what not to do, right? I've spent some time telling you some things to do, focus on, but also what you shouldn't be doing. So number 1 here is don't do this alone. I've done this. When I first started, I thought I'm going to do all this alone. I'm going to go out and meet brokers. I'm going to do all the analyzing and underwriting, and I'm going to keep all this to myself. And once I find a deal that makes sense, people are just going to come running to me, and it's going to be super easy for me to find partners and get all the capital I need to close a deal. That couldn't have been further from the truth. What I found out was that I was really limiting myself in my progress because I hadn't taken the time to build those relationships with other people. I hadn't done the real deep networking. Okay. The other thing I'll tell you is don't wait until it's perfect. I am guilty of this, waiting for the perfect storm or the perfect, timing the market perfectly. But the reality of it is, as long as you do your underwriting right and you understand how to control those variables, there's always an opportunity. Okay. So the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the second best time is right now. Okay. So don't wait until everything's perfect because there is no perfect. You're getting close and you're doing it skilled with your underwriting and your business plan. Okay. And then don't blow your budget or guess at CapEx. So CapEx is your capital expenditures, and capital expenditures are basically your budget to implement your business plan. Okay. So you want to partner with somebody who can really help you dial that in and figure out what a really good budget is. Okay. You don't want to come in too low. You don't want to come in too high. You don't want to spend all your money on day one. If you raise too much money, then it has an impact on the overall value of the deal. Okay. So what we've got there is we've got all those 5 steps to everything you can be focusing on to help get you into your first deal and eliminate a lot of that guesswork and not go broke. You've got a ton of strategies now. Okay. But I know that buying your first apartment deal, it can be hard and it can be lonely. And like I said, I tried to do it all by myself and it was lonely, but then I learned a better way to do it. So that's what I want to offer you. What if I could help you solve the biggest problems? It's underwriting, raising capital, and then show you how to go full time. So what if I could do that for you? And the answer is it would probably change everything. Okay. And I want to say thank you. So Alexia, I saw you put in the comments you're part of the fast track community. There's so much info in there. And we did meet the other day and you saw all the trainings in there. There's a ton of information, you guys. There's a ton. So Alexia, I appreciate the support there. All right. Does anybody have any questions they want to drop in the chat? I'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody's got questions. This didn't come up, but I will share with you, for those of you that are here, as an example, my first deal, guys, it was not a 5 unit. It was not a 10 unit. It was not a 30 unit. It was not a 60 unit. It was a 184 unit deal. That was my first deal. Prior to that, my real estate experience was I had bought 2 single-family homes. One of them we had flipped and it was a nightmare. And I decided I'd never do it again. Okay. So you can do this without having a ton of background experience. Okay. Absolutely. You can do it. If I can do it, there's nothing special about me. I just had to make a decision to show up. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join. And I hope I get to see you in the multifamily fast track. And we'll see you guys in the next training. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.